Okay, so in the last video, I showed how to create a bootstrap and then use that bootstrap to get interviewed and create like an alignment profile file that you can throw into projects and use to as a source, like the so AI collaboration orientation. I probably should change the name. I mean, I don't like that for the name if it was going to be mine, but this is the tutorial for how to create the system. So that is basically just that last video was just basically to show you how to get GPT a little more oriented to your to how to talk to you. It's like a start. Now we're going to actually build the system. And so that's what we're going to be doing here. So the first thing we are going to create is something that in my other system we are calling the thread lifecycle protocol. And the thread lifecycle protocol has two main functions. It has two executions, actually. It has two commands. Um, and One's called the thread initiation protocol and one's called the thread closure protocol. Um, and Those two things function like, well, the first thing I will say when I open a new thread in a project once this is implemented is execute thread initiation protocol, and then it will do what it needs. It will breed all it will get set up and oriented to get started, right? And then when I'm ready to close out a thread, I say execute thread closure protocol, and we go through a step by step. That one's more involved. We go through a step by step thing to close the thread in a way to continue to keep continuity, keep the project documented and whole and together. It's actually quite it's important. The thread closure protocol is important. I can't stress enough how important it is for continuity with these things. So that is what we're going to be doing. So let's do that. Hey, GPT, first of all, I like you to respond in short conversational prose. I always like to stress this. Get to the point. Don't give me technical stuff I don't need unless I ask. Make sure you are running the AI collaboration and orientation MD to be working with me, and then just kind of confirm. Okay, but and this I'm going to be steering you. You're still a new system to me. Mine works with me because the way it is. Short conversational prose kind of means no bullet points unless absolutely necessary, right? It sentences and paragraphs. All right, so what we're working on in this thread is this project is to teach people how to create a system to code and work with AI in general, and but specifically for coding purposes. Um, and The first step in creating that system is to create the what I call a thread lifecycle protocol. And so this is a protocol to govern just how threads work for continuity. And we'll get into more what that means. There's two main aspects of it, but I'll get into more what that means in my next message to you. Yeah, I decided to cut that off rather than continue trying to explain what I'm doing there. It's basically just going to confirm, but I'm just trying to keep my responses from getting overly long too, because sometimes I can get too much with those and get into too many things in one. Um, okay, so the thread lifecycle protocol consists of two phases, two commands basically. So at the beginning of a thread, the first thing I will say is execute thread hang on. Okay, so the thread lifecycle protocol has two aspects to it, and it consists of two commands and what to do when those commands are given. So I will start a thread in my projects with by saying execute thread initiation protocol and verify, and that means run the thread initiation protocol. So and then I close threads when the thread is finished because it's reached its endpoint, or if it's getting too long and wonky, then I will say execute thread closure protocol, and then we will go through a list of things that happen at that stage too before we close the thread. Do you understand the basic shape of what I'm talking about? I like to ask it questions like that just so it like feeds back so I see that it sees it. I like confirmation. Um, okay, so yeah, so what that will do is it will tell the thread initiation protocol is basically just a reminder, even though the project files are in there and they should always be you should always be working from it. It's still just to reinforce those. And sometimes I will tell you afterwards specific ones to focus on for this thread, right? Ones that matter more because like my main project has 19 MD files for different aspects of the game I'm creating. So you don't all yeah. So some will. So I like to remind you which ones are important. It seems good to help keep stuff to remind you to read them sometimes to keep them at the forefront of your mind, for want of a better term than mind. So when I say that, so the threat initiation protocol is going to consist with you specifically saying to read the AI calibration and orientation, and then any other file MD files that are in the project, they will grow, and we will change this as we develop. We will rewrite this file, this MD file that we're creating. But it will tell it to read right now. It will tell it to read the AI collaboration orientation. Um, and and itself, I guess, the and also the thread lifecycle protocol, even though clearly in order to do the command it's read it, but still it helps. But I like then to verify. But also part of the thread initiation protocol is going to be then giving a hierarchy of what takes precedence if there's disagreements in the various MD files or in your source shard memory or whatever memory system we set up. To kind of try to break that down, mirror that back to me, short, like short and direct to the point, so I can see that you kind of follow what I'm saying. Okay, so try to make a note in your own personal memory, or I mean, we're going to update this act. Well, I mean, it's going to be part of the thread closure protocol, whether or not we need to up this thread. But one of the things we're going to do is, as more MD files get added, we need to update this thread to accommodate that, right? As more MD files as our project grows. So part of the thread closure protocol is actually about updating these files. So we will get to that. But for now, I think you understand what it means well enough. Okay, so now the thread closure protocol happens two ways. One, if the thread's just too long and wonky, one, if the thread is complete, because we've done what we set out to accomplish in it, which is nowadays usually what when they close. I rarely get them that long anymore. But so this consists of a couple of phases. One phase is that you will read the all the MD files that are in the currently in the project folder, compare and then look through the thread and see if any of them need updating based upon that. You don't just do it. What you do is then give me a list of any that need updating and tell me why. Then I will upload them to you one at a time because I found it works better than you working directly from the project ones. I don't know, maybe with 5.4 you could do better at that, but anyway, what I normally do is upload my file from my hard drive in the current chat. We'll at the end. In fact, we'll probably do it at the end with the AI collaboration orientation because there's probably stuff anyway. So and then I will have you rewrite the file, adding in the new necessary stuff, or just updating it appropriately, whether you add or take stuff, whatever it is that's appropriate to update based upon what we just the contents of the current thread, and then give it to me as a downloadable link that I can re-download and replace the so that I can use it to replace the old one, right? Um, and put it into the project folder instead of the old one. So that is the first stage. Okay, yes, that's right. Okay, so now the next phase is, since it's a coding project, to look to think about whether anything we have done means we should change the agents.md file in my repo, or the agents slash skills that we put in there for that particular project. So if any of that needs updated based upon it in the thread, you do a quick check of that. Usually that's not the case, but once in a while it is. Yeah. So I'm actually going to go into mine and ask it a quick question so I can, well, not yet. Yes. So, and then the next stage is, we also need to put into play. So the next stage is to align the next thread, the follow-up thread in the project for continuity's sake. So what I will have you do at this point is take a step back and look at the project as a whole from big picture and decide what the next thread in this pipeline should be, because I will probably have parallel pipelines. You know what? Let's leave the pipeline stuff out for now, actually. Um, that's complicating things unnecessarily. So what this thread will, because not everybody would want to work like that anyway. Um, your brain's got to be kind of weird for that. So I'm actually not going to. So I deleted that. I digressed too much talking about stuff it doesn't need to know. Like could have just left all the, like I started talking about the parallel pipelines and backed out of it and was talking too much. So rather than send that message, I decided to delete, just restart, because that was just confusing unnecessarily, adding information that the AI would have to keep in the thread, and just, yeah, it's the more focused you can stay, sometimes the better. I mean, sometimes it's good to get scattered for something like and it handles it really well. It would have handled that just fine, and gone on. It's just I decided it was cleaner to leave it out, and it wasn't necessary, basically. So I'm resending that message or redoing it. Okay, so then the next step is we have a system for aligning the next thread in the project so that there's continuity, right? So we take a step back, look at the project as a whole, usually the roadmap, if there's a roadmap MD already, which eventually there is for like a coding project, and just see what the next thread should be about. And then, because you have a better picture because you've been working with it than the next thread will have, even with the MD files and the documentation, you just will. So I always have the prior thread decide what the next thread should be about. Well, me and the prior thread work together to do it. So basically, what we'll do is we'll look at the project as a whole and decide what we think the next thread should be about, and then we will write a handoff. We will end up tightening up the handoff rules as we go. But basically, for now, the handoff just needs to be whatever information the next thread needs to have. Now, some of the information it'll need to have will be A, what we're covering, what we're not covering in the next thread, what to leave alone. And then also, like, we need a naming structure. So a system that is set, like, codified and set in stone of naming structure so that each one carries over. So I mean, when I say set in stone, I mean we may adjust it if there's changes, but like something that the rules are there, that when you pick a name, you know exactly what the name of the next thread should be based on that, right? So those rules need to be put in there as well. And I'm actually going to go into my other GPT. This is you can kind of see the naming structure over here that we have. But I'm going to ask it. I'm going to make a throwaway thread in this thing and ask it, hey, GPT, could you look at the thread lifecycle protocol and tell me all the important aspects of what's in that file? So I didn't want to port over my old system because I'm showing how to build it from scratch, but I can't remember everything that was in that file, and it's kind of important. So I'm gonna have GPT double check. Oh, you know what I could have done? Actually, no, I shouldn't do it this way. I'm gonna show you a better way to do it. I'm gonna go back to my old one. This is what I should have done. No, because that contaminates it. Let me think. So I was going to bring that file in and have it read it and just tell me what's in it. Yeah, okay. I could, well, yeah, it's good enough. I'll just leave it here. Major digression there. Uh, Load order, read governance. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a trick for that's really helpful for this kind of stuff. So it's kind of good that I came over here. So hey, could you create a handoff for me that does two things? Number one, it tells this another GPT what the goals of a thread lifecycle protocol is, because I'm setting up another system from scratch just to do it for tutorial purposes. And so could you tell another GPT what all, not exactly how to do it, or don't give it the exact file. I just want you to give it a rundown of what's important to have in it, that we have in it anyway. And then also that can be a good example of like how our handoff system looks. Oh, and it does something else. It assigns roles. It assigns roles for the next thread based upon what the next thread is about. I just remembered that. So we have a list. So we need to create a list of roles for the project, and that can be updated sometimes too when we realize new roles need to be there. But basically, the list of roles we need are everything to do with game development, coding, graphical design, UI, anything, any skill set that would be involved with creating a video game. As a developer, all those skill sets, all those need to be roles, and then also like creative, brainstorming roles, stuff like that. So any roles you can think of that would fit, kind of define those a little bit, and then part of deciding what the next thread should be is also adding to that handoff what roles the thread should assume for that. I might not bring this over. I might actually see how it looks. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because I am doing this from scratch without any import, so I'm actually not going to bring that over. But I could easily take this, copy and paste, and it would give it all the instructions it needed. And a really good way to talk to AI is with AI, asking it to send it messages. It's better at it than we are. So AI is good at like taking what we say, interpreting it, and then writing it in a way for AI to understand, if that makes sense. Better than so it's better. I've found it's better to talk about it rather than to tell it to do it, and then have it tell another one to do it. Uh, so I tend to just talk about what needs to be done, and then rather than do that in Codex and then have Codex code from that, I do it in GPT and have GPT tell Codex exactly what needs to be done with the code. And that has worked really smooth step by step with stuff. So anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Should have already. Okay, so give me a breakdown of exactly how you view the thread lifecycle protocol.md, to just kind of a rough outline of what's going to be in it, how it's going to look, what's needed. And feel free to jump in if you think there's anything that should be added that we're missing. Okay, so we haven't built cross-check mode yet, but I find cross-check mode, it's better for you to go into cross-check mode before you start writing the MD files for that stage of it, by the way. I don't know if we should put that in here now yet. I mean, I guess we could, but we don't have a cross-check mode implemented yet. That might be the next thing we do, actually. Yeah, that might be the next thing we do. So yeah, maybe go ahead and write that in. Also write in that I like the MD files to use the exact same file name, not to have a version number or say updated at the end. I like it to be written out with the exact same file name as the file you're working from. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. We might even do that in this thread because it's not so much. I mean, I do have a commands.md, but it's not something I upload. It's something I have you keep in your main memory, basically, because I like to be able to use it from anywhere. So, do you feel like you're ready to write the? Yeah, it does feel like you are. So, why don't you go ahead and write the thread lifecycle protocol.md? So cross-check mode, I'm gonna get it to be cold, analytical, and give pushback feedback, like to give real feedback how it actually feels. And it's very helpful because because it does push back strongly in that mode. At least my system, it works really well. Um, but if it's basically saying things are pretty much fine, I'll always try to find something because that's what it's supposed to do. But if it's basically saying everything looks that it doesn't see an issue, that always is really helpful. Okay, so yep, looks a lot like the other one. So yeah, it pretty much is recreating my system step by step. Okay, so let's go ahead and do cross-check mode before we close out this thread. So in cross-check mode, I want a couple things from you. I want you purely analytical in your full thinking mode as strongly as you can, like thinking as hard as you can, looking for flaws, stress testing, and to give me solid feedback on where I could be missing errors or missing, just not seeing something, or maybe I'm making an assumption, whatever it is. I need you like to just look at something. So if I say cross check this, cross check the last bit of the conversation, like our last several exchanges, or cross check this file, or even just put you in it to make you think harder. Sometimes I use cross check mode, not even to push back to me, but just to make you think harder. That's what I'm looking for. It's basically to put you in your ultimate cold analytical space without letting any, you're not a cheerleader, you're not doing none of that stuff. It's just pure analytical looking at it from that perspective. And and it will come with two commands: enter cross check mode and exit cross check mode. Or sometimes I'll just say casually cross check this or that. I mean, you're capable of understanding nuance, so it works. Okay, I didn't actually ask it to cross check all this. I was like talking about the thing, but yeah, no. So a lot of this is covered. A lot of this is covered. Uh, and I was actually just telling you about the cross-check mode to put it in your system. So yes, we need to formalize the rules. I wasn't really asking you to cross-check this thread, although you did. Um, I would say you need it a little tighter, probably, but uh, document scale is never going to be a problem because 25 is the max for projects, so you're never getting more than that. And yeah, so how we do the hierarchy, we need to talk about at some point. I don't know that we have really even talked about the hierarchy yet, but it'll be part of the thing. And the thread's goal is it won't just naturally emerge. Like, yeah, so I'm pushing back on a lot of this. And you know what? I don't really need to send this. So yeah, you found stuff. A lot of it's stuff that's already covered, and you'll see as the system grows because you don't see the full system yet. Um, so yeah, no, it's triggered specifically. Like, and you don't trigger it yourself unless it's built in, like it is with the hand dot with rewriting the MD files. Like sometimes it's built in that you go into cross check for a certain purpose, but most of the time, cross check mode is just something I pull out, and I don't do it very often, honestly. I only do it. It's a very much a hard. It's a like a blunt tool, basically. Um, Yeah, no, so we haven't built the life cycle. Did we build? Oh, so you didn't codify it yet, huh? So we need to do that. We need to redo the life cycle doc mod to make it hard and fast rules for how we're doing it. So let's decide what those should be. Um, so the next thing we should do is decide what those should be and redo the thread lifecycle protocol. So let's get the naming conventions we want for the slice coding tutorial project that we're on that's meant to teach people how to slice code. So come up with a good naming convention for that. What do you think would be good? And the handoff template will come in. Wait. I mean, the coding development workflow has it. I think I end up making them for the project too. It's probably in the project setup or, ooh, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but we may need to make new MD. So we'll talk about that as we go. It doesn't matter where it was originally. We're gonna know where to put the handoff thing. We will tighten that up. I don't think it belongs in this MD though that we're working on here. So we are so. Okay, I just digress there a lot. I'm blanking this out. So here's the thing. It doesn't realize it yet because we're not in sync to the point yet, but this thread is pretty much over, and it should probably get better at recognizing this as it goes, the system grows, right? Because right now the goal of this thread was to make the thread lifecycle protocol. Now it is right about one thing. We do need to do the naming conventions. And oh yeah, maybe the handoff template too, actually. So yeah, no. It needs to. You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm not sure what it put in. I thought it had a lot of that in. So what I'm going to do is this. So if you hit this Ask GPT, it focuses it on what it said here, right? So that it knows I'm talking about this. Okay, so GPT, look at what I linked there to you, quoted you from what you said about what we should do next. I'd like you to take a look at the MD file. I'm uploading it to you again so you can read it. Can you look at that and tell me how much of that is in there already enough? It sounds like we definitely need to define the thread naming convention better. But look at the handoff template and the role library. Did we put that in? What all's in there? Tell me how good it is. Okay, so since we're building a new system, I'm not going to try to mimic mine. I'm actually going to do it the way. So yeah, I'm actually going to do it the way, like just like if I was building from scratch rather than referencing mine all the time. So directly. So I think what I'm going to ask it here is. If it thinks the role library needs to be a different MD or not, or if it should just be in this, since this is where it usually gets built from. So I want to ask you where you think the role library should be defined. Should it be defined in this file since this is where it gets put into, like it's since basically it usually gets assigned at the end of this thread. The next thread gets assigned its roles based upon the thread closure protocol. So it feels like it'd be okay to just build that library into the thread lifecycle protocol.md, right? Okay, so but keep in mind we are trying to keep the spread of MDs too much. Like I had to consolidate some at one point because I hit that 25 limit. Um, but you're right, it probably will. So let's go ahead for now and do that. Let's go ahead and make a row library.md. Um, and actually, let's put a pin in that because we haven't finished this MD first. But let's keep in mind that that has to come. I think first we need to define the thread naming system because that should be here. So what naming system should we use for the slice coding tutorial so that we're going to implement this for this project we're actually in? So in the interest, we're going to need a numbering system. So like my other one, yeah, we're going to need a numbering system. So like, what about like SCT O1 or A and then pipe? So there's going to be two pipelines probably in my system eventually. Well, I shouldn't get into that. I keep talking about it because it is part of it. But that's the thing. If I don't put it in the naming convention now, so if I don't put it in the naming convention now, it is like I had to split it and do something weird later. But I guess for this project, I shouldn't be doing the parallel thing. It just isn't a good idea for the tutorial. So I'm going to leave that out. So, okay. So we also need a numbering convention. Like maybe start it like SCTO1 or something, and then have a phase and a topic. I don't know. We need some like I do like a numbering system so I can like look back that way too. So, but it also needs then a name that I can recognize what it is by reading as well. Okay, so we're going to lock that in and hardcode that system you just said to the thread lifecycle protocol going forward, and it will be like yeah. So the next one we do will be called SCT 001. And then you'll give it the name. We'll talk about it before you name it totally, but that's how it's going to work. That's going to be the naming convention, which you just said, okay? And we're going to want to keep it very uniform between with each handoff. So the next thing to talk about is tightening up the template. How do you view that? All right, so you could get in the groove a little bit more, maybe, but overall you're doing pretty well. Okay, so I like that. I like that that handoff template. So I'm going to. So I think I'm going to. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to show people how we close threads. So uh, we are going to try this. Execute the thread closure protocol. Okay, we'll see how well this works. Okay, yeah, it's giving me more than it would with mine. Like mine would keep this way more to the point, but it is working. Okay, so what I will do then now is I'm going to upload you the file that you just created, just so it's fresh. And then I'm going to have you update it appropriately. Make sure you do not lose anything important that's already in there when you do. Sometimes there have been problems with just rewriting the file with only the stuff from the thread. So, and my system's kind of got that down, but I just thought in this case I would remind just to make sure we get this right. Okay, so go ahead and update it and give it to me as a downloadable link, please. Oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, so I use GPT Plus on my regular system and I don't want to pay for it for this really. So I guess I'm gonna have to, yes, this is probably the last file I can make. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about, data analysis. I'm guessing so. So, yeah, which is good time for that, I guess, because this is about done. All right, so the two one thing I always like to do. So I usually don't write it over like this. So I can see the new one is bigger than the old one, right? And that's a good sign that it did what it was supposed to do and just added what it was supposed to add and didn't like mess up. If the new file is smaller than the other one, you know you got a problem. If they're the same size, you probably should double check, especially if they're the exact same size because it might have just rewritten the old. So like, but but if it's a little bit bigger and just feels just enough bigger to match what was put in, then it's usually a really good sign, and I don't even bother double checking it. But it looks like everything is here. Um, so I think okay, so I might as well go ahead and yeah, we're gonna finish out this thread. Okay, so let's go to the next step of the thread then and take a step back. I know we don't have a project roadmap MD yet. We still got a bunch of MDs to create to really get this going good. Um, but so I think the next thread, and correct me if you think there's something else, but feels like the next thread we should do system commands like crosscheck. There might be one or two others. Um, Actually, one other I can think of. Um, we'll do, yeah, I'll do some system commands in the next thread, I believe, unless you, but I like you to give your input at this stage. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I'll make those MDs. I might actually just have you put them in your system memory. You're starting to creep here though. You're getting out of the groove. You're giving me, oh, you're still in cross check. Got to cross check. That's the problem. You're still in cross check, aren't you? So go out of cross check. I only need you in, so you're only supposed to go in cross check when you're rewriting the MD files. You're not supposed to stay in cross check afterwards. Yeah, because you see how different it's talking to me there? Like that's because it's in cross check. My cross check's actually a little better about that, but short. You really gotta like get on it with this. I don't. It's wow. Stop. We need to talk about this. You're really drifting. You need to be in short conversational prose. That's what I'm looking for when you're not in crosscheck. I do not want bullet points. Yeah, no, the other one is like a code check one where you the command is that I'll give you a repo and tell you to code check it and that means like just go through and check. I don't even know we need a command for that one actually. Cross check's the big one. So I'll put in cross check just to show people how that works. So let's go ahead and write a handoff for the next thread telling it we're going to create a cross check mode. And well, actually, before we do that, don't do that yet. Um, let's name this thread with our naming, using our naming convention. This being the very first one, using the current naming convention. So give me a good name that I can rename the thread we're currently in to start us off. Hmm. So you had made this an SCT-01. I was thinking it was going to start with that. I mean, I know we don't have that thread lifecycle protocol updated with it yet, is the thing. Wait, did we rewrite that? Yeah, we did rewrite it, but I didn't put it in the project. So you're not working. So you might have been looking at the one that's, well, actually, it's not in the project at all. So, but remember that the naming convention was going to always be SCT-001. So I don't think it's doing the best thread closure protocol that it normally could, simply because um, uh, it doesn't have the thread lifecycle protocol in the project that it's actually running from. It's running from it's not, just not the same. There you go. So some of getting these systems up feels like wrestling it into place a little bit at times. Like it's not magic, it really isn't. But eventually it hums. Wait, that's oh shit. Oh, what did I do? Oh, you know what? Completely ignore what I was just saying. I was in the wrong thread. No wonder that got weird and wonky. I was in my. I'm actually gonna. I'm gonna close it and deal with that later. I got into the wrong one, but it did do 2001. So I just gave that last message to the wrong one. All right. So I think you forgot that we had originally designed it. It was going to be SCT-001. I know you don't actually have the thread lifecycle protocol to work from yet in the project folder because we just rewrote it and I haven't put it back in the project. But it's SCT-001 was the naming convention, followed by, well, um, what did it say? Yeah. So actually, you already gave me one. A good one is, so you gave an example one that's a really good one for the thing. So I'm actually going to rename this thread this. Okay, so final thing is let's write the handoff. Go ahead and write a handoff to the next thread, telling it we're going to do cross-check mode. You make sure you include the name of the thread in it. I think I hope that was part of the handoff template. And yeah, you know what? Hang on. Just gonna do this. Well, first let me. I should give these their own folder. I will once I'm off screen, but for right now they're just sitting here. Okay. So I actually should have put the thread lifecycle protocol file in the project folder before I asked you to do all this, but I didn't. So it's in there now. So go ahead and use that for your handoff template, and give me a handoff for the next thread. Uh, Perfect. Okay, see now it's following the handoff. I can tell because it put SCT002 in the handoff. In the previous handoff, it didn't even put anything at all about the thread. So yeah, this is much like I was looking at this handoff that it kind of threw out, which I really don't like when it does. See, it got a little wonky right here. This is not at all how it should be behaving. But wait, I could have swore it gave one. Maybe it didn't. Oh, you know what? I was looking at the other. Yeah, no, never mind. I don't know. Well, either way, it's yeah, no, it's doing it right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. It gave it a starting instruction to execute thread initiation protocol and verify as part of the handoff. That's kind of cool because then I can just do this and rather than because so normally what I do is well, so normally what I do, I'll show you what I normally do, and I'll probably do it this way out of habit. So normally I would go in here and say execute thread, yeah, execute thread initiation protocol and verify. Okay. Okay, and then I could drop in the handoff and go from there. So I'm actually going to delete this and try this. Um, okay, so it did thread initiation protocols. I like that. I like that. How do I like to be talked to? Short conversational prose means no bullet points. Not concise and then with the thing like you write to me like I'm reading a book. And maybe we need to impress upon that more in that one in the AI collaboration orientation. We might want to. So let's make a note at the end of this thread when we're updating MDs to update that thread to more stress that I do not want bullet points lists. I want conversational prose like I'm reading a book. And no more details than necessary. No details unless I ask for them. Technical details. And this is why you like update them as you go. Like you just keep improving um, the behavior, right? Okay, yeah, good job, thanks. And that's much better. So okay, so we're going to build the cross check. It's really a quick, easy thing, probably. But why don't you tell me how what cross check is as you understand it based upon the information you have? Okay, so you enter cross-check mode if you've been commanded to. So I will tell you cross-check this, cross-check that, and then you ex. If I forget to tell you to exit cross-check mode and it feels like you should have, maybe ask or just mention that you're still in it. Like maybe the start of every. So part of the protocol should be the start. Yeah, that's I think how I have it set up. The start of every chat that has cross-check mode still activated will say cross-check mode on. Just let me know. You don't need to say cross-check mode off when it's off, but when it's on, just say that. Um, but only go into it if you're commanded to, either verbally by me in the thread or because the MD files, because your instructions are to do so for a certain task. So this one, rather than make an MD file, I like to make this just a general purpose. Like it's can be done anywhere. Like I want it in your main memory. Okay. So wait, where was this? Okay, yeah. So um, there's what it's remembered about me. Two things I've told it to. Okay. So this is going to be a really short thread, I think. Looks like cross-check mode is implemented now correctly. So, correct? I mean, it is. I see it in your memory. So, we're going to get out of here. Execute thread closure protocol. Normally, I wouldn't do a thread that short with all the protocol. If I were doing this without kind of showing this the way I'm building it, I would just do a new chat and put that in its memory and then have it be a thing from there on. But since we're doing this, and since something actually came up, the only reason I'm actually initiating the thread closure protocol is because something came up for uh, the collaboration orientation thing. That needs to be addressed. So that's why I'm doing the thread closure protocol really mainly. Um, Execute thread closure protocol. Okay, see, it's already doing the coding system alignment check, but we don't have a repo, so it's not really. I mean, there's nothing. We're not actually doing a coding project. So, okay, I do like to do these step by step too. We probably should have made that. Okay, so there is something well, we are going to update the thread lifecycle protocol actually to say that the thread closure protocol should be talked about step by step rather than just talking about it all at once, if that makes sense. Um, so so we're going to update both of those because I'm refining what it's supposed to do here. I noticed something I didn't like about its behavior. It did all the steps it's supposed to do to do the protocol, but it did them all at once, and I don't like that. So now I am going to go. Let's see, where did it talk about that? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Right, we got that, and then and I really need to get these their own folder, but okay, so here's the AI collaboration orientation.md. Could you please update it appropriately with the stuff you were talking about there and give it to me as a downloadable link? And a lot of times, so it might feel like there's a heavy overhead of doing this with the files and the thread closure and stuff, but a lot of times it's hours before you do that, and you get it's really not as bad as I've been worried it did. Oh shit, I can't do that now. So I'm gonna have to call it for now because yeah, it can't do that because I don't have the data thing for it to do it. I forgot. Um, which kind of brings this to an end. So basically, we're going to call this good on this system and this thread probably. What I will do later when I can is have it rewrite those and download them, I suppose. And huh, I may have to pay for this one too, if depending upon the speed at which I'm making these. I don't know. But you see what I'm doing. I was going to update the. It was going to update the AI collaboration orientation to more impress upon it how to talk to me. Because you really have to be, you got to be really firm about that because it wants to, if you want it different than the default, like I do. I absolutely hate the default. I cannot process information like that. Um, but if it works for you, it works for you, right? Like, but if you're somebody like me and need it vastly different from the default, you can regulate. Mine's works like a dream with it now. Like but it takes a bit. And then the other thing is I was going to update the thread lifecycle protocol just because I didn't like the style, like that it was giving it to me all at once. I wanted it to do each phase one at a time. So those are just minor updates to those files, and then this thread would be closed. I would take this handoff, and I'll do that starting in the next thread. I would take this handoff, the SCT-003 system design role library, into the next one, and we would create that. You see, and then like there's quite a bit. There's going to be some coding workflows to get it lined up with that. There's going to be a lot more to put in. But the beauty of the system is once it's in, then it hums. It hums. It takes some work to put it in, but once it's in, it hums. So I had worked for 2 weeks on a game where I had a lot of the system designs in place verbally, like designed. I had the coding done for a character moving around a space, interacting with things, doing a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of systems around that. And it'd taken me a week or two to do this, right? I also didn't know Unity. Like I was learning Unity as I went. Well, no, I was doing it in Godot. I was doing it in Godot, and I did it for a few weeks, and I was learning how to do it and getting there. And then I decided I needed to switch to Unity. So I went to rebuild all of that. But because I had been documented and creating the MD files about it, and it knew enough about the game that we got caught back up to where we were within 2.5 days. Like just rebuilt it from scratch to that point. And because it was just the coding slices, slice by slice by slice, because it's not like I sent it all the project and had it coded. That's why I call it slice coding. I am doing building system by system individually, not having the AI just take a general idea and go with it, right? It's very specific what I'm implementing. I'm implementing a game that's to my specifications. And but anyway, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, I was able to recreate that in a very short period of time because my system was once is the workflow is working so well, and a lot of that 2.5, 3 days was spent getting my new workflow, refining the workflow for working with Unity versus Godot because I had to refine that, and I had no knowledge of Unity at all. Um, and then I also had to refine it a little bit because GPT 5.4 had just come out. So yeah, so a bunch of things changed at once, but it only took a couple days to get caught back up, and I'm right where I was when I was in Godot, um, but in Unity. And this was just a few days ago. So I'm kind of rambling here, but my point is, when it's running smooth, it is humming. Um, so and that's what we're building towards here. So anyway, I'm gonna call this the end of the video.